Or should I say Brooksy? Welcome to the Mailbag. Bag alert. Major bag alert. Also streaming on YouTube. If you're listening to this podcast on the weekend, go check out the YouTube. If you're watching the YouTube, you are watching the weekend Mailbag edition of the Haberman and Middlecoff podcast. Welcome. Good to have you.
We made it to as our people in the sales industry would say, it's the weekend, baby. Friday. Happy Friday.
Yep.
Let's go.
Like in the college baseball world, John, the college baseball postseason begins on Friday. We're Friday starters.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Friday starters out there in the world.
We rolled out Gary Daly Jr. guy, and he got drafted, I think, in the second round and didn't make it.
Gary Daly Jr. UCLA once had a Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer rotation.
We had Gary Daly Jr. and then we had Thomas Eager, who is now one of the assistants at Stanford.
I didn't know you know Tom Eager. I know Thomas Eager.
Yeah, I mean,
guy.
I used
He's
to have
the pitching coach at Stanford.
High level guy. I used to have classes with his wife. I think she was an ag business major. She was my neighbor on Hathaway. I think Thomas, I don't know if he ever got to the bigs, but he had a better career than I think people thought. Valley guy, maybe Stockton or Lodi or something.
I think he might have. He did pitch in the minor leagues for sure. Yeah, he was at Cal for a little bit, and then he went to Stanford.
Yeah, it's cool. I root for him.
Good dude. I didn't know you and Thomas Eager.
Yeah, I don't think we actually know each other. I would know if his wife was around. Know him.
We did not anticipate starting the Mailbag with Cal Poly baseball talk today, but here we are.
Is it Stanford a powerhouse?
Stanford is a powerhouse. Stanford's in. Nope. Yep, Stanford's hosting a regional. Stanford's very good.
Let's go, baby.
So I love college baseball. This is the Mailbag. What you do to get in the Mailbag. You go to iTunes. You leave us a review on iTunes, 5 stars. We appreciate it. You ask us a question, any question at all, and we get it into the Mailbag. Hopefully we didn't miss any this week. There's a lot of things flying, but that's how the Mailbag works. We appreciate everyone that takes their time to listen, everybody that watches, everybody that takes time to review. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good time to say thank you.
And we obviously stream everything as well on YouTube. Haberman Middlecoff. It's easy. You just go to YouTube. It's basically Google, but it's video. Google owns YouTube. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. Type in Haberman and then probably and Middlecoff show up, and you just go subscribe to the page. That's where everything is. Very easy.
Yeah, it's great.
Get on it.
So we can dive in. The one thing that's not Mailbag related, though, this has become a big story on Friday. It started with a tweet from a guy named Cooper, who's at the Memorial, which is Ohio.
Jack is born and raised in Muirfield, Ohio.
Every single person yelling, "Let's go Brooksy" at Bryson is being pointed out by both Bryson and his caddy and being escorted out of the tournament by police. If that's not considered rent-free, then nothing is. And he tweeted at PFT Commenter, who then reposted it, and everyone's aware of this. Major story, John.
Have a take here. You and I subscribe to this when it comes to other sports and parents getting involved, like a mom chiming in, right, defending Aisha with Steph. Like, right or wrong, I 100% expect family members to come rushing to support of their family member, right? Regardless of right or wrong. I also absolve the caddy. Whatever the caddy, remember 2 years ago in the Ryder Cup, I don't know if you remember this, someone said something pretty bad, I think, to Patrick Reed, and might have got close. The caddy shoved him, and the caddy got kicked off the bag, and they had to have a backup caddy. It might have been like his wife.
Brother-in-law.
But something weird happened.
Maybe his brother-in-law is his caddy. Isn't that the deal? His brother-in-law is his caddy?
And he got booted.
Super close.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a double whammy. But Ryder Cup, right, foreign soil. I do not blame Bryson's. Bryson's caddy is making a ton of money, whether he's right or wrong. Bryson, you can't double down on everything you have the last couple weeks and then start getting mad when people are doing this. Because my take on the fan reaction, thinking about it, and I told you this before we hopped on the pod, like, we love a good, it goes viral all the time, 2 guys on the second or third deck, super wasted, throwing hands. Well, then we're shocked when an individual is throwing a bottle at someone's face. Like, come on. Like, we can't have it both ways.
I mean, it's good video, but, 2 guys punching each other. Yeah, but I'm just saying,
well, you can't, the games or bars and it's craziness. Like, yeah, I mean, fights happen all over with alcohol. It's part of the deal.
Yeah.
The difference is, like,
What's your
Players aren't playing into that. Bryson's doubled down on this whole deal. Like you're embracing it, Bryson, and now you get mad when they're calling you Brooksy.
Well,
like,
he's kind of embraced it. I think he embraced it because he kind of felt he had to. He's kind of got forced into it, right? Now he did embrace it. You're right, but he got put in a position where he had to respond because the video went viral of Brooks rolling. Brooks not even rolling his eyes. Brooks like completely melting at the idea of having to be in the same vicinity as Bryson. And everyone's kind of piling on, so he had to pile on. He had to respond, which, fine. You're right. He's involved himself. There's no question. And the other thing that makes it different, right, is golf is like in a different realm than all these other sports. It's like if you're sitting courtside, it's expected. You're going to be yelling. There's a huge crowd. You kind of think I'm yelling at the guy, but you can't really hear. It all becomes one piece of a larger noise. Golf is not that way. Like if you yell in golf, you're going to get heard, and that everyone's going to hear you. I think what's crazy is that there's like this universal way to talk shit right now when it comes to Bryson and Brooks. And it sounds like all the verbalizers have Brooks' side and they're just yelling they're all yelling the same thing. Like they don't know each other. It's just, this is only going to make it worse for him, right?
Yeah, it makes him look really bad tossing people out for yelling that. Like, to me, there's a line, and I don't feel they're crossing it.
They're not yelling obscenities. They're not talking about anybody's family. They're yelling, let's go Brooksy to Bryson.
I'd even say if one of the things was, like, some steroid chant or something, I would completely get it. Like, this is – it's going to be a bad look.
And it's
Remember,
like after – it's not in the backswing.
Justin Thomas came out and apologized for when a guy yelled, get in the bunker. And, like, I thought that was a pretty douchey move, throwing the guy out.
The guy who was yelling at the ball or just yelling at him?
Well, he hits his tee shot, and right as he hits it, it's, he yells, get in the bunker, and then they point at him, they toss him, and he got a lot of shit.
Yeah, as he should. It's a fine line, though, because I don't think you're right to throw somebody out for that. It's hard. I'm not going to come running to the defense of somebody acting like a douchebag.
No, but my point is, get in the bunker, to me, is dramatically worse than let's go Brooksy once they've played into it all. That's my point.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they're all in the same category of pretty harmless, but, beyond what's usually acceptable in the sport.
To me, let's go Brooksy is, I would say, is not crossing the line. Where let's go get in the bunker, you're like rooting for a guy to fail, which is
but
pretty.
But when you're yelling, let's go Brooksy, you're doing the same thing. You're just trying to get in his head.
I mean, I think you could justify it. You're fucking playing the game. They're playing it up. Like, you're just part of this whole fucking thing. That's my point.
Again,
like,
you could justify it, but to me, like, on the most basic level, it is being kind of douchey. Is it worthy of being ejected from the golf event? No, I don't think so either.
But see,
guys, I think it's being a little disingenuous to act like it's not shit talking, which it is.
Well, yeah,
okay.
But to me, get in the bunker is just you're just rooting for the guy to fail. Let's go Brooksy is part of this deal. This is where Bryson, once you jump in the deep end, like you've embraced this whole thing, like it or not.
This is not good natured to Bryson. It's good natured to the guy yelling, let's go Brooksy. Like, I do think you're right. It's kind of tongue in cheek, trying to be funny, just trying to have some fun. I don't think it's evil, right? I don't think it's like the way maybe some people yell it. But I do think it's not a joke to, like, this is not, at the end of the day, Bryson dove in because he kind of had to, and he's trying to be funny and light with it, but it's clearly a big deal to both of them.
Well, if he had never jumped in and had fought it the whole time, I would understand it. Like, he doesn't want any part of it. Like, he wanted the smoke.
But he didn't. He got it.
He
didn't ask for
any of it. He
Brooks,
fucking started memeing everybody.
Again, he was in a really tough. I don't want to defend him here, but he was in a tough spot because Bryson was getting piled on by everybody.
But you're talking about like last week. He talked shit to Brooke like a year ago.
Well, okay, but again, like because that's
involved in this.
Yes, but easily you can say that's between us. Like I didn't. Like now I got to deal with this shit. Which again, yes, you do. It's a fine line. I'm not here to defend him, but I also don't think. He's in an actual beef here. He's in a real thing. Like, I think it's real to him. This is not like some WWE stuff to him. I don't think. Like, I don't think he wants any of it.
Yeah,
I don't think he wants it to be a part of anything, which you don't necessarily get. You play professional sports. You don't get to choose.
No,
but the idea that like I don't think it's quite as cut and dry as like he started this, and so now he has to deal with everything. It's a blanket. You just have to accept it all.
But I mean, Let's Go Brooksy is not. What is that really dealing with? Is that where you dealing with that much?
I have no problem with Let's Go Brooksy, but the problem I have is acting like it's more innocent than it is when we know what it is. It's talking shit. It is.
Yeah, when I say innocent, like it is by no means you should not get tossed out of a golf tournament for screaming that. Like that's fucking embarrassing, I think.
I agree, but let's not act like it's just nothing, just some guys having some
No one
fun.
is, but it's funny. Like, but see, you are absolving him. He's part of the whole WWE thing.
I'm not absolving him, but I'm saying there is in this sport, like just because you have a rivalry doesn't mean you're asking for it to become, ringside at a boxing match. That's my point.
Yeah, the problem for him, like the modern day golf, has gotten much younger and much more alcohol related. It's become more. The tournaments have become a little more of a party.
Yeah, and it's hard to put. There's a fine line of how to police it because you want that fan, right? You do
100%. Like that's.
But can you just? Are we just gonna? Is this the way the sport's gonna be played forever now? Just you can just yell at all the players from a foot away after they.
But you and I went to Pebble. You yell at guys. You just yell like,
yeah,
CJ, let's go
I mean,
Brooksy. Let's go Brooksy, guys. Pretty fucking harmless. The more I think about it, it's harmless.
It's pretty harmless. Yeah, I agree. And again, my point is not kick anybody out. My only issue is acting like it's not shit talking when it is.
To me, all he has to do, and we'll see, maybe he will today, if he comes out and be like, which he won't, but if he does, like, this is fucking driving me nuts, then I'll be like, I get it a little bit. But he can't keep memeing and he can't keep swimming in the deep end.
But he's in a place he doesn't want to be. I think.
See, you are giving him way too much credit on that. Like, the more I think about it, like, he thinks he's better than Koepka, and he should.
Sure, yeah.
So he thinks he's just going to think he's better than all these people, as any great player in any sport. Now, some guys, I would say this, like, historically in team sports, some guys have been uncomfortable in certain rivalries, right? They're like, I just want to play basketball or just play baseball or just play football. They're not into all the extracurriculars, stuff that comes with it, right? Bryson, I'd say once you start YouTube, like he likes being a star. Once you really like being a star, like I feel zero sympathy for let's go Brooksy when you're all in on YouTube videos.
There's no sympathy.
Private jets.
There's no sympathy from me. But what I'm saying is Brooks is far more comfortable in a rivalry than Bryson is, I think. I don't think Bryson. I think what happened last week was a result of him getting piled on and feeling like he had to do something.
I also think it's a little hard to tell because we've never seen these guys play together. Like then,
look, my theory. I told you this before we started. I don't think Brooks wants to play with him, but I think from a competitive standpoint, Brooks would take better advantage of it than Bryson would.
Yeah,
I think Brooks would be in Bryson's head more than the reverse.
It just comes down to under no circumstances, if you want to truly be what you have the potential to be, you have to pair these guys together. I did hear some player on a podcast say, no fucking way the USGA is going to pair these guys together. No chance.
Well,
maybe it was Kevin Kisner. He's just like, no chance.
Well, like I asked you, like, is there a scenario where one of them is done, the other one's in second place, knowing on Saturday night I'm paired with that guy Sunday if I finish in second place and tries to avoid second place to avoid the pairing?
Yeah,
if you're trying to win, you can't really play like that. So
no,
I still think there's got to be some. I mean, sports is too good to not end up with these two in the same grouping.
I also think in any other sport, they would somehow, whether it was F1 to tennis to, obviously we know the three major sports would ride the shit out of this, right? I mean, Yankees, Red Sox is this weekend. We have been hit over the head with that thing for decades, and rightfully so. It's I remember being into it like when we were in college.
Yeah. It's a little different. Like all those sports are different, though, right? In that you're on your own dugout, you're on the other side of the field. Golf is like you're just. And golf is also
they're not going to fight, right?
No, of course not. I'm just saying golf can be really more personally uncomfortable for 4 hours. That's part of what makes it great. Yeah, it's part of what makes it attractive. But I acknowledge, like to me, it's not the same as Red Sox Yankees, right? Like you're in that bunker with other guys. This is where like the Ryder Cup is great. You've got teammates. This thing is you are out there on your own in silence, not talking to each other, but you kind of have to communicate because you're like, is it me or is it you or can I move that mark or like that's the weird part is you do have to communicate on a basic level.
But here's what I would say though. I would say in the history of the PGA Tour, probably the last 30, 40 years, and I'm sure tennis is the same way. There have been people that hated each other that only people on the inside knew. And they've played together for years.
Sure.
Right? Famous people. Right. In probably definitely.
If these guys silently hated each other, they probably would have been paired together by now. That's the irony of it.
Yeah. because they both rotate.
They're actively not
groups,
being paired together, which is insane.
which is stupid.
Yeah. Look, this is good for golf. They got to figure out what
it's
to
good
do.
for
Because,
entertainment.
like you said, it's
we'd
not,
all want to see it.
Yeah, but like you said, this is not no one's being inappropriate here, and this is not even near the level of the things that get yelled at other sporting events. There's no question. But they got to figure it out, because I agree, being ejected for "Let's Go Brooksy," you can't.
You can't be doing that to
Like where I will concede. Maybe concede's not the word. I do. There is a level of there's a level of kind of dealing with the pressure created by the event with the fans around you that you have to accept when you play professional sports, beyond just there's a lot of people here. Like, some people might yell some stuff at you that you don't like, and you don't get to just remove them because you don't like it, because it makes you uncomfortable. I agree with that. I'm not advocating for anybody being removed for that. And I don't think you should get removed for yelling "get in the bunker" either. Like, to me, "Let's go Brooksy," get in the bunker. Like, yeah, somebody's rooting against you. Deal with it.
Yeah,
Like,
I might have money on the other
bunker.
guy.
I got no. Probably, it's really, in all likelihood, that's probably what it is. It's a gambling thing. Imagine when you're walking the course with my DraftKings app, right?
Well, who wears the DraftKings logo?
Absolutely, Bryson.
I mean, what if I got Brooksy in a matchup?
What if I got them both on my team? That'd be stupid. All right, well, it's time for the mailbag, John. Let's dive right in. Here we go. You know how to do it. You leave us a question on iTunes. We dive into the mailbag right now. We begin with question number 1 from Baseball Guy 22020. Love the podcast. Best conversation around Bay Area sports, hands down. Question: who do you think makes the Hall of Fame speeches for Brady and Belichick? Do you think they'll each be in attendance for the other? P.S. Check out the new Top Golf in San Jose. Place is sick. So I think probably who does the introduction, right? Who presents Tom Brady and who presents Bill Belichick, I think, is what Baseball Guy means by that. When he says who makes the speeches for Brady and Belichick, right?
That's what I guess. I mean, because obviously I would imagine both those two guys are going to write their own speech, or at least the highlights.
I do think they'll be in attendance for one another.
1,000,000%. Like, that to me would be a massive story if one of the – now, I guess Tom probably wouldn't still be playing. Bill could technically still be coaching, but he already proved when Randy got in, he flew there. They would be there for Tom.
My vote for Tom's presenter would be Gronk. Whether Tom picks Gronk, I could see him picking like his dad or something like that.
I could see it being his dad. If you does the dad, I can't complain. But I do think Belichick should be his intro speech. For Bill, I don't know what you do. That's harder. I guess you could do Tom. I mean, if you told me both those two guys introduced each other, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is there a chance? Do you think there's
the
any
same
way
time?
that Tom would let Bill introduce him?
I don't know.
I mean, a lot of guys and Al Davis butted heads, and he introduced
Hatchet,
eight guys. Yeah, I think time heals all wounds.
The other thing is how many
they
guys
are so synonymous with each other and won so much with each other, made so much money,
and it elevates you. Right, it elevates your accomplishment if Bill Belichick presents you. Edelman, maybe another. Bill.
It'd be like if Scotty and Michael were both Michael. It'd be like Michael and Michael. You know, you go hand in hand. Like, you guys get to.
Yeah,
both people think you're the best.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. Would Bill
Bill's
have
hard.
like some to introduce Bill? Here's Bob Schlomovsky, Maine's all-time leader in high school lacrosse wins.
I guess Bob Kraft could introduce them both.
Bob Kraft is a very good one.
Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi is a very good one. You know,
because for like
Brewski
Gronk,
or
like
something like
when
that.
Gronk gets in, I'd expect Tom to introduce Gronk. Don't you think?
I would expect Tom to introduce Gronk. Yeah.
Edelman's pretty tight with Tom.
Yeah, Edelman was
crazy.
Edelman for Tom would make a lot of sense.
Could be like Edelman's moment because he'll never get
Bill?
in.
Saban?
That'd be pretty cool.
I think the heart of the point is a great point, though, right? Which is you're right. They should introduce one another.
Well, who do you think is going to introduce Peyton?
Could be Eli.
I'd expect it to be Eli or his dad.
Archie. Yeah, I mean, would he ask Irsay to introduce him? I guess
doubt
too much success in Denver.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, mailbag. This is from CC Cortez, which I think might be a full name on the internet, although CC, I don't know. What certain things would you guys do in order for Major League Baseball to get more people interested in the league? I would move the A's to San Jose, even though it's within the Giants' jurisdiction. Also, I think a team in Vancouver or Vegas. I'd also try to speed up the game to make it more fast-paced, maybe limit the amount of batters that can bat in an inning. Also, Central Valley High School football is the best. My city, Delano, has 2 out of 4 high schools that are contenders to win it all, so it's been fun to watch them recently. Love the pod. Sorry, I'll go back to it. Well, I'm actually anti-expansion. I think contraction makes baseball more interesting. You get rid of some, Tampa doesn't really do anything for the league. You get more good players on fewer teams. That helps your brands. I don't think adding more teams is good. I think less teams is good.
No expansion.
No expansion is not the answer.
Guy, there are 2 no-brainer moves. There is Tampa, move them to Nashville, and there's the A's move to Vegas. And I think both feel kind of inevitable. And I listen, I understand there's some loyal A's fan here. I would imagine this guy, wants them to go to San Jose for a reason. They're never going to San Jose. And I honestly don't even think it would work. Like, the Giants are too entrenched. I'm not saying they would fail, but I think their best move for most success has to be Vegas. It is just not here. The Giants are just too big.
I do think a waterfront park would having just something to hang out at. Like, I do think for a long time AT&T Park, the Giants were not good, but it was a cool place to go. And I do think just that as a place to hang is what I think that's an attraction for baseball because it is an everyday sport. It's really hard. I think really impossible if you're not good because they are good, right? So if they make money, they have actual repeatedly players that people have heard of, that kind of thing.
Guy, Tampa's in first place. I mean, both of the franchises are dominant.
And their park is awful, and their market is really bad.
Yeah.
Their market doesn't have a chance.
0.
Delano High, I wonder which 2 schools in Delano.
I just don't know if a lot of people would go,
Howard
I just think Oakland and San Francisco are different animals. And I understand.
Yeah, but I remember, don't you think?
I know, but San Francisco was still different. That area was shitty back in the day.
No. What I was going to say is I remember as a kid, we would drive from Davis all the time to go to Oracle, to go to AT&T. You do have people that's coming from other parts of Northern California, people driving from the Central Valley, where it is a little bit more difficult to get all the way into the city.
Do you think that they're going to last in Oakland?
I don't think they're going to build a stadium in Oakland, no.
I don't either.
Next up, Scangarello's last. This is from Randy Poffo. This is not even a question, but I wanted to get to it. Scangarello's last 3 seasons on the resume. 2018, QB coach for a bad Niners offense with bad quarterback play. 2019, coordinator for a bad Broncos offense with bad QB play, fired immediately. 2020, QB coach for the nuclear reactor meltdown that was the 2020 Eagles QB play and offense. So Randy is blaming Scangarello for this. That
what's funny is when I was at the Combine 2 years ago, and Scangarello had just left the Niners to go to the Broncos, I went out for beers, and this was before he worked for the Eagles. I had a buddy with the Eagles, was like, what's weird? And he had known Scangarello because he had scouted, and Scangarello was at UC Davis for a long time. So one of his contacts at UC Davis. So he said hi to him. He said Kyle got on the elevator with Scangarello, and he would assume because this guy, Scangarello, was hanging his hat on being a Kyle guy. He's like, Kyle barely acknowledged him. So he texted me the moment when Scangarello was rehired by Kyle. He's like, I would have swore they weren't really friends. And clearly they are. I mean, he was a quarterback coach, and then he hires him back. But to give him, we're putting that on Scangarello, the Jimmy's ACL injury. Right, I'm sorry. Even 2020, he gets the blame for wins. That seems pretty bold.
I would imagine he's got some good stories though. Yeah, of watching the Doug Peterson did he have to be the go-between? I wonder if there were times where he was the guy that had to communicate between Carson and Doug, because what was the story? They didn't talk after week 8 of the season or something last year.
Yeah, it's a weird year for Scangarello to be at Philly. If you're going to be there for 1 year, it'd probably be better to have the crazy stories than one good year.
Yeah.
If you're going to get rehired, right?
Absolutely. By the way, John, we didn't do our Sleep Number ad. Why don't we do all 3 ads right now, and I can edit them for the podcast later and move them around?
We'll just do them at the. You want to just do them at the end?
Yeah, we can do them at the end.
Let's just do them later.
Make it easier for me if we did it now, but that's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Let's do them now.
No, it's fine. Okay, next up on the mailbag. Let's see. We just did Scancarello. Next up, this is from IEAAB. Hey, love the pod. I have a Warriors-related question. During James Wiseman's rookie season, he was noticeably raw, and it was pretty obvious that he has a developmental prospect. On top of that, his recent injury may slow down his development. That being said, do you think it'd be wise for the Warriors to trade Wiseman for a player who could be better the next 2 to 3 years and maximize the remaining prime of Steph, Clay, and Draymond, even if Wiseman would turn out to be a better player down the road? Keep up the great work. Well, first thing would be if you're trading James Wiseman right now after a not great rookie year and a meniscus injury, you're not really maximizing the value for your blue chip prospect, right? So that makes it hard. Like, you're not getting Bradley Beal. I would trade him for Bradley Beal, but I wouldn't trade Bradley Beal for James Wiseman.
After making many poor investing decisions over the years, selling stuff that ended up doubling and buying things that go the other way, I developed a Middlecoff strategy. It's pretty simple. I only ever sell on green and only ever buy on red. So you cannot sell James Wiseman when he's in the red. Because they paid a lot for him, right? They used a 2nd overall pick. He was this blue chip guy. I know he's raw, but holy shit, you cannot. Right now, selling him would be like for half his value. That to me would be just bad business, just on basic value alone, given his upside. Because there is a chance that he may never turn out to be more than just like a good rotational center or something, right? It's not guaranteed he's going to be an all-star. Yeah, which you will need. But if you knew that, you would probably trade right now. But you by no means know that, and you've paid way too much to not write it out for a couple more years to figure out.
Yeah, and I do think I think that he and Steph can. I do think he can help Steph Curry. Right, if you're able to develop him properly, he can help Steph.
At least give it the chance to see if he can, because this year you couldn't really tell.
No, you couldn't tell, but I do think there's just a basic level to I can throw the ball at the basket, that guy can jump and throw it down. Like, that's a pretty valuable skill.
It was one thing that jumped out to me, my novice basketball scouting, and it might just be the timing of everything, but for a guy that is massive, I mean, I'd say the majority of games when he was on the court, it always felt like he was the tallest guy, even with like other power forwards. I know the league's a little shorter. He's huge. Bad shot blocker. And again, it could just his timing's off. Guys are faster, but he did not like, DeAndre. I thought he would just block more shots. And it's just, again, it might just be timing.
Yeah, he hadn't played a lot of basketball.
I've never played in the association.
For 4 years like that, going, Jimmy Garoppolo's hardly played. It's like, well, okay, we've been, you can't use that forever, but it is fair to say at this point he has not played a lot.
You agree, being a 7-footer that can really jump, you should just kind of fall into a couple.
Some guys can only block shots off the ball, not when they're defending a guy, right? Maybe you're getting bumped. Maybe you don't read the shot well. It's not
like Shaq.
Not everybody has that skill.
Remember in Blue Chips when he goes to the bayou and he's playing on the wood and he's just packing the ball. That's one of my favorite scenes in the history of movies.
Next up, what up, fellas? John, this is Brentley here, former scout from L.A. Had a non-football. He's saying he's a former scout from L.A., not you're a former scout from L.A. So I had a non-football question. I don't know anything about baseball, but my girlfriend works for the Giants, so I've been following them, and they've been crushing it this season. I recall last year hearing that you hated Kapler with a passion, and as a non-baseball guy, I never knew why. Curious as to where the hate came from and if this season's success has changed your perspective on him. Also, when are we hitting balls at El Macero Golf Course? Keep it up, fellas. Can you get us on to El Macero?
I know Brentley. Yeah, I could swing it.
Signed, B. Yeah, John, has the Giants' success changed your opinion on
Absolutely not.
It's actually made you angrier.
Yeah, well, it made me angrier, but I texted someone yesterday. Farhan's the best GM in the league. It's a GM-run sport. Gabe Kapler's a $700,000 employee who I just find to be a complete fraud. I think everything comes out of his mouth. He's like the Gavin Newsom, but even he's of baseball managers. I don't anything he says I feel is just completely like he's just faking it. And I've been around now, lucky enough, my weekend in Arizona around dudes that were in the bigs, that were around other guys. He was their scouting coordinator in LA. That's basically like the GM of LA. I just do not hear good things from players. And 2 degrees of separation. I don't know Posey or any of these guys. I hear they don't really like him, but obviously they just go with it. again, it's not like Bochy where he tells them what to do. They don't answer to him, really. The sport's changed a lot, but I do not take him seriously, and that hasn't changed. It sucks because
You might be
wish I
signing
could
like a
root for the
7-year
Giants.
contract extension the way they're going.
I know. It's just
You
their
wish
team's
Bochy
good.
could have had this team.
Do you agree the GM's elite? We know more about the GM than we do the manager.
Farhan is amazing.
Yeah. He's good.
Absolutely
He's good.
nailed that hire. I did not think they would spend 3 days in first place until 2025 at the earliest. Truly. Like,
Do you find him to be a genuine human, Gabe?
No, his press conferences are always weird. But then I met him one time a few years ago. Someone's like, "Oh, you got to meet Gabe. He's great." And I was like, "Really?" And he was really cool. So I was kind of thrown off.
I know
was
the
thrown
thing.
off
You know,
because
when
it
you
was
hear
very
bad
different than
things,
my
and you meet a guy,
perception.
you're like, God, that guy was nice to me.
So,
I get
yeah.
it. I get it.
Next up, Wookie 187 question. You guys were talking about Belichick using the numbers 50s and 60s for rookies and mentioned that an offensive lineman wouldn't care, but a linebacker might. Is there an inherent mood or demeanor of players in specific positional groups? Keep up the good work and appreciate the podcast. Yes is the answer to this question. Let's go through them, John. Let's start. You and I were having this exact conversation at Niners OTAs on Tuesday. So let's start with probably the most outgoing group.
Yeah, it's depending on the team, it can be a tie. There are two groups that with the music playing is the most likely to fuck around and dance at any moment's notice, and that's the wide receivers or the DBs. Depending on the position coach, too. The wide receivers with the Niners feel a little more letting it loose. The DBs, a lot of younger guys, right, felt a little more focused. Just the
DBs felt a lot. Yes, yeah.
I saw some of Jimmy Ward's quotes. Maybe he just doesn't allow that shit flying around there. So the wide receivers, I think the linemen in general, their head's always on a swivel because at any moment they could just get their ass ripped. So I think there's a little more focus there.
Are you talking offensive and defensive linemen together?
I would clump them together. Again, depends on the unit. You're probably more likely to have an outgoing personality as a defensive lineman. The Niners had it with Staley for a long time. But in general, there's not much like fucking around.
I tend to think
when it's
you
serious.
get a little more goofiness from the offensive line off the field.
Off the field, yes. I'm talking in a practice setting.
Yeah. Yep. That's
Both
fair.
their coaches
but
are
the
probably
question is
typically going to be the loudest.
inherent mood or demeanor. I just think you do get offensive linemen
for sure.
tend to be this generalization might be wrong, but tend to be offensive linemen versus defensive linemen. I feel like sometimes the O linemen were the guys that were bigger earlier in life. Like outsized from the rest of their peers longer. Not to say that defensive linemen aren't like that too, but defensive linemen, sometimes you get a linebacker who puts on some weight, or offensive linemen, like for the most part, they've been now sometimes you get a guy like Staley, right, who was a tight end who got a little bigger. For the most part, they've been the biggest the longest. And so I think they have a bond with one another based on that. That's hard for anybody really probably to understand.
If you were going to go day drinking and you could pick the group with the easiest, you would pick the offensive lineman for sure, and probably throw in a couple quarterbacks, dude, to bring the chicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But quarterbacks can also, like, they can not be humble, but they have humility in them because they interact with the lineman a lot, and the lineman can humble them. So they're a good balance together. And I think the tight ends kind of roll in that crew too. Like Selleck, when I was in Philly, was always cool.
Yeah.
Kittle is a little out there, but like just the group of Niners tight ends is pretty guys, golfs and fucks around, drinks and lifts and just kind of meatheads.
Underrated group I think is safeties. Safeties usually have like some quarterback qualities to them. And
very
I'm just
intellectual.
Thinking about the
sure.
safeties that I've talked to over the years, like I would say safeties are pretty down to earth, generally normal. Easy to they got a lot going on. They don't usually have time to fuck around during the game, like in between play. Like they got a lot going on.
Well, a false step is a touchdown.
Yeah. So and you get burned when it happens to you, right? You're always the guy like he went over here and now he's trying to catch up. And DB corner playing man just has to worry about the guy in front of him.
And he's always going to point at someone else.
Yeah.
Right?
So I find that safeties are a really enjoyable group of people. Usually, not that anyone's not, but I've always liked. Now that I think about it, I hadn't thought about it before. Safeties are easy, good people to talk to. Do linebackers have a personality?
They're very hit or miss.
Hard to say. Sometimes you get D linemen. Linebackers are maybe the most you get a lot of variation there.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah,
Same with
they're
running
very
backs.
different.
I'd say linebackers and running backs is just you meet some guys that don't say a word, other guys life of the party, other guys that are serious, other guys that are fuck arounds. Because both positions can just be like the biggest freaks, right?
Yeah.
You just have this outside linebacker, this running back who just
Well, where do your best
gifted
players in high school play?
yeah,
Probably they
middle
go two
linebacker,
ways and play
running
those
back.
two positions.
Yeah.
Kickers are hit and miss. Kickers can either be like sometimes you get some that like feel like I'm a kicker, I should kind of stay out of it, and other times you get guys that like they kind of feel like they're I'm the star, man. Nobody can do what I do. You get a whole range there too. I find
Kickers a lot like pitchers.
Yeah,
because you're out on your own, but you're not really on the team, but you are on the team. It's like,
me,
well, you're not really in the, and even a pitcher's way more in the bunker with the guys than the kicker.
Yeah, but I think it's a great similarity because you're right. The similarity would be there's this sweet spot of kickers and pitchers. The sweet spot personality is the guys that know no one else can do what they can do, but also know they have it pretty good. Like the pitchers who know, like, yeah, I'm like we're the only position group golfing 3 days a week, right? And the kickers who know, like, I got to deal with some shit that people make jokes, but I'm being left alone over here just doing my own thing, and that doesn't suck, you know?
Yeah, I
like
make 4.5.
Yeah, it's a good gig. It's a good gig. Okay, good mailbag. Few questions just to follow up on, John, real quick. Let's rattle through. Guillermo asked, where do I submit for the mailbag? If you're late to the party, you go on iTunes. You leave us a review on iTunes. You leave a question in there. 123 High Tech on YouTube says, I heard Ruggs put on some weight. You think he figures it out this year? I hope. Haha. Is it up to him or is it up to the Raiders? I feel like it's more up to the Raiders than to him to figure it out. But
I don't feel like weight's his issue, right? I mean, I think one of the problems was his route running in the offense. Him and Derek were not on the same page, but like his package was being that guy.
It seemed like they prioritized other people offensively.
He's got to put on 15 pounds. Like, no, he runs 4.0 240.
But they weren't. His injuries were not like size related, right?
He's got to get on the same page as Derek.
Dan says, bag alert, major bag alert. I never heard that song before. It sucks, but I love saying major. Wendy's commercial. DJ Khaled. Camelot's Red and Gold says, would think LT, Bill's favorite player, Belichick's favorite player, not LaDainian Tomlinson, Lawrence Taylor would be the one to introduce him.
I would doubt that one.
Feels a little removed from Bill's greatness, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know that he'd have the greatest perspective on all the things that Bill Belichick achieved in his career.
Not out of the realm, his son, right? This coaches for him.
Yeah, what's his son's name?
Steve. Steven.
Steve.
I think it goes Steve or Steven.
Yeah, the mullet.
Wouldn't shock me if it was Steve.
Yeah.
Because of his dad. Remember, his dad was like a coach, scout for like Army. I do think Belichick's family, like, you know, his kids became a pretty big part of the team, right? He goes
By
viral.
that time, is his kid the head coach of the Patriots or the defensive coordinator of the Patriots? He might. It's not. Look, that kid's going to become a. Does he call defense yet or no? Does Gerard Mayo call defense?
I mean, the kid's going to be head coach in the NFL, right?
I mean, if every LaFleur can get a job, Bill Belichick's son can get a job.
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
I expect him to be Josh McDaniels' defensive coordinator or something like that when Josh takes over.
Yeah, and I would doubt, like, the thing is, historically, you're like, oh, the kid, the boss's kid. Like, we've kind of proven now, Kyle. Like, if you work for Bill, it's not easy. It's like, well, he's only working 2 hours a day, right? I bet if you just sat with Steven Belichick, you'd be like, fuck, my days are long, right?
Absolutely. All right, check out, thanks to our sponsors, sleepnumber.com/ham, John. Check out sleepnumber.com/ham. Geology.com/ham. GEOLOGIE.com/ham in the description. 40% off any trial set. I use it every day. John uses it every day. And Gabi.com, GABI.com/ham. Check your auto and home insurance rate. If you're getting the best rate right now, it's free to check. They'll tell you you're getting the best rate, but they're going to compare it to 40 different insurers and let you know if there's a better rate out there for you.
Saves on average over $950 a year. That's a lot of money. Net income.
All right, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends. We always appreciate you sharing it with people, your neighbors. You're seeing somebody this weekend, you start talking, you want to use one of our takes, do it, and then tell them where you got it. Or don't tell them where you got it. Make it your own take, but also tell them, hey, I like these guys. We appreciate it.
That's what I do.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody.